Well, Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us at Infamous Horrors today. So, Lloyd, throughout your career, what would be probably the one or a few movies you would say you're proud of the most?
Uh, I would say hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. That's my most personal film, and it's about my favorite. It's based on my favorite Shakespearean play, and it has the best cast, the best crew, looks the best, and I think it's the best of my movies. I don't know if it's the best in the 50 years of Troma movies, but I think it's certainly my best. And I would say in 35 years, the Museum of Modern Art will wake up and play it like they did with
Right.
Troma. Took them 35 years.
And outside of Troma, what has kind of been a film you have been proud for? Because one of my most fondest one of yours that's outside of Troma is The Final Countdown. And my dad served in the Navy as well. So that's a huge film for him too. So me and him really love watching The Final Countdown. So outside of Troma, is there any films you helped produce or help get made that you're really proud of?
Well, all the movies that we serve as any kind of producer, Death by Temptation, it's all black people.
Right.
DEF by Temptation. That might be our best movie. Or Mother's Day, my brother's film. I would say those two movies probably are the best non-Lloyd directed movies, but also Cannibal the Musical, which we were very important. That's a great movie. No question about it. In my opinion, it's better than the Book of Mormon. And
Right.
I'm not talking about the Bible. I'm talking about the Broadway show. So those guys are brilliant, and Cannibal the Musical is fabulous.
Yeah, and it still holds up to this day. I try to watch it like once every Halloween season. I think I try to get Cannibal the Musical in as an
Are you
annual
on?
as an
Do you,
annual viewing.
do you subscribe to Troma now?
I am
No.
not currently, no.
Perfect. Well, why don't you?
You know what? I will after this interview, Lloyd.
It's only Chad. It's free the first month, and then only since I can't see you. Are you okay with this particular frame?
Oh yeah, yeah, I am.
Can you see Toxie back there?
Yeah, it looks wonderful.
Good. Yeah. It's free the first month, and then only $4.99, and you get 50 years of our movies. And every month we're putting up new movies by new young filmmakers like you. Up and coming, the Trey Parkers and Eli Roths and James Gunn of the future.
Right.
And there's some terrific short films, long films, everything.
Right. And I
that
saw
are
you.
not out of our collection, that are all new every month. And then we put up more movies at the same time, put up more Troma movies. So I think you'd enjoy it.
Yeah, and I see you became really good friends with one of my good friends out in Kentucky, Antonio. Gosh, I don't want to mispronounce his last name, but Pantoya or
Yeah,
what?
I haven't learned how to pronounce it. Oh, he's the best. Antonio is just amazing. Yeah, we had a great time last weekend in 2 weekends ago. Last weekend in Kentucky at the Scarefest. And
Yeah, yeah.
Antonio, we had a great team that Antonio and Taylor Taylor Christian put together. Great team, wonderful in Kentucky. And, it was a great weekend. And they showed there's a fancy movie theater that a entertainment center that did a nice screening of hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm, and the theater was packed, and people loved it. Even in the more conservative states, people get hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. It's in the middle, sort of like it's like South Park. It's not. It
right.
makes fun of everybody.
And that's got to be a really nice surprise too, right? Like even the conservative states are really chewing up hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. I remember watching that in Fantasia International Film Festival when you had it there, maybe last year or the year before, I think. I was part of the one of the round tables where it was like a group of 5 or 7 people interviewing you at that time.
Uh-huh.
So that was a really cool experience then. And so when you bring it out into conventions and festivals, has
See,
anything still surprised you with like the reactions? Are you just overwhelmed at points with it?
well, here's the problem. Have you ever seen The Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, greatest American play?
I have not. I know I
Oh,
should.
in my opinion, the greatest American drama. And the character Willie Loman is a salesman. And he goes from town to town to town to town to town. And I have to do the same thing with one night, right?
Right.
The theater is full one night, but the theaters don't book us for a week. So I'm beating my brains out, traveling for one night stands like a comedian who's just starting out. So I've been doing that for 50 years. I can't keep doing it. So we don't, it's very hard to get theaters. We're economically blacklisted. We're also economically blacklisted by most of the mainstream, Amazon and all that shit. So it's
I
very
did not
tough
know that.
after 50 years, very discouraging. No newspapers cover us, no TV covers us. It's only our fans that, like you, who for whom we are very grateful, and to whom we give great thanks for supporting us. I didn't say, I went to 6 cities in Texas and Oklahoma, and the fans did the whole thing. They called the theaters, they booked the TV and the publicity. They drove me, probably 2,000 miles around,
Right.
and they also had a Toxie and a Crazy Sarah to go with us, and but it was all fans, and
Yeah.
so we made a little money off the merchandise and a little money off the one night stands, but it's a lot easier to play for a week, but they
Yeah.
don't want to take a chance,
And you said you had Troma for 50 years. I mean, how must that feel to you guys? Do you pinch yourself sometimes knowing that you've been around for that long too?
I think we're pretty bitter that we've had absolutely not one bit of recognition from the mainstream. Yeah, you think New York City, where I've lived my entire life, and in which Michael Hers and I have produced hundreds of movies, or financed. You'd think there would be something to mark our 50th year, like the New York Times or maybe one of the local TV stations or something. Nothing.
And
Unless you take a lot of advertising, you ain't going to get publicity. Although there's some big changes, Chad, that I see in the countryside of the movie industry. One, my protege, James Gunn, is now running Warner Brothers. So he
yeah,
has Troma and independence and great talent running through his veins. So he is not going to be making George Clooney and Julia Roberts movies. He's going to be making good movies. And the other thing that has changed, perhaps, is that Terrifier 2, a movie that cost
yes.
$250,000, has done a huge box office and beat out 20 million, or however, I don't know how much the George Clooney movie cost, but it had to be 20 or 30 million. And this $250,000 movie is knocking the shit out of that crappy rom-com.
Right. Like I remember when that Terrifier 2 was first on Indiegogo getting backing for it. And now it's making millions and millions. And it's even getting a 4K release too on physical. And now
It's
we're
getting
seeing the decline of physical movies from, when you first started out, when physical movies were really, the top of the town with collectors. And now we're seeing this uprising of digital content. So throughout your life of doing Troma and Troma Now, what have you found to be kind of the the pros and cons of the digital content that we live in now.
Well, I've got nothing against the digital content. I've got plenty against the industry, which does not allow for independence to rise. The odds of an independent getting a movie made through the mainstream is impossible, because the mainstream's going to cut you apart and shave down the whatever, and even then you'll be 1 out of 1,000 if you get into it, if you even get your movie made. So that's the problem. And then if you do get your independent movie made outside the mainstream, like we do, nobody takes your call. Nobody gives a shit. There are too many movies, too many lame and boring and movies that are safe, politically correct, but not too politically, just enough so they they don't actually show a breast, or just enough so that they don't actually do anything that you might remember.
Right. It's not excessive gore like it used to be in the 70s or 80s that we would get now in movies.
Well, I think there is a lot of excessive gore, but most of it has no inspiration, has no talent. Has the Terrifier 2 people apparently are very talented. I've met them a couple of times. They're lovely people. And God bless them. Congratulations. They made it. They did it. And they're going to have toys, and there'll probably be what's his name? Rob Zombie will probably be the next Terrifier 3, or whatever. Why not?
Would you be interested in joining Terrifier 3?
I would do. I don't think they would want me, because I'm not into that genre particularly. Well, I haven't seen Terrifier 2, but I didn't find Terrifier 1 very funny. Was it funny?
No, you know what? I kind of agree with you, but I do think Terrifier 2 kind of upped the game a little bit. Like, it took what people were criticizing about the first one, with the lack of character depth and narrative in the film, and they kind of did a much better job of doing.
Oh, I'm sure that they did. They had $250,000. They probably only had 50,000 for the first one. But the point is, I'm not interested in slasher movies. I don't make slasher movies. Now, maybe Volume 2 is it funny? Is Art the Clown funny like Freddy?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, I could probably. I could probably make a Terrifier that was different, very different, and I'd probably make a Terrifier that would fail at the box office. So if they need that, I'm standing by.
So have you met anybody in today's generation of young filmmakers that kind of caught your eye a little bit, and you said, well, this guy or this girl can be something if they kind of had the right direction and right backing with them?
I'm producing several movies. Mercedes the Muse has finished her movie about feminism, about real feminism, not the bullshit coming out of Olivia Wilde's asshole. This is real feminism. It's called Divide and Conquer. It's terrific, and we need to get theaters for it. So if you can help her in that, that would be great. Then there's also Brandon Bessem, who I'm producing his new film. I produced his previous film, and he's extremely talented. He makes horror films, but they're hilarious, and they're not woke particularly, and they're great. And so he's great. I think he'll be James Gunn. I think Mercedes will be a James Gunn. I think she'll move up the food chain if she stays focused and really wants to. I think Mercedes really wants to be independent. But Brandon, I think, would be very good for mainstream. He doesn't go too far. He's really talented, and great writer, good director, nice guy. He's made like at least 5 movies. 4 of them are on Troma now: Fear Town, USA, and Slashing Part 1, and then the Slashing Part 2, The Final Beginning, which I produced.
Yeah. Now his name sounds familiar, because I think he sent me Fairtown, USA one day to kind of
that's a great one.
Review.
You ought to see it. It's terrific.
So, Lloyd,
yes, Chad. Yes, Chad.
we're getting a lot of reboots and remakes in today's Hollywood. And now even one of your classics is getting remade or rebooted. How do you feel about the Toxic Avenger getting remade for the big screen in this generation?
You don't go to jail for, you don't go to movie jail for making a sequel or making a reboot or making a reimagining. And I have signed a non-disclosure NDA, whatever that means,
Okay.
agreement, non-disclosure agreement, something like that, where I, you know, that fuck me if I say anything. But I can tell you this, that Macon Blair's Toxic Avenger is Macon Blair's Toxic Avenger and will be totally different from Lloyd Kaufman's Toxic Avenger. It won't be your grandma's Toxic Avenger. I can tell you that much.
Right.
I can't go any further. Other than, you know, maybe you can poke around and get some answers from Warner Brothers, who's the distributor, or Legendary, who are the financiers, or Macon Blair. I don't know too much, so I don't know where it's going. I was on set and, you know, I was there, filmed in Bulgaria. And, but other than that, I'm not allowed to say anything. I
So,
don't know why. Nobody's ever explained. I worked on Rocky, Saturday Night Fever, you know, Toxic Avenger, Final Countdown. Never signed in. They never heard of NDAs. The movie business has become so sleazy that nobody can even give anybody a script without an NDA, without
right.
some kind of letter. Fuck. I don't mind if I'm happy to give anybody my script. I'm happy to show people my movie as long as they, you know, I don't need to, as long as they don't bootleg it.
Right. And so, Lloyd, do you have any more sewings of hashtag Shakespeare Storm, or do you have any conventions lined up in the future?
Well, the Museum of Moving Image in New York, their Thanksgiving show, which is on November 28th, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. That's going to be Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, because Poultrygeist has poultry for Thanksgiving. And it's a great film, got good review in the New York Times and others. And so that's a big deal. I'll be there. That's a big deal, Museum of the Moving Image. Let's see, January, there's some tattoo festival in Philadelphia, the largest tattoo convention in the world. Troma gets invited every year, and we you know, the tattoo people and Troma fans basically intersect with each other. There's also New Orleans coming up. There's also, Garrett can give you my schedule of what I've got. There's Texas again in the March, England. I got to go to United Kingdom at some point.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Do some theaters. It's not fun. It's being a Willie Loman, you know, a night
Right.
here, a night there, a night there. And, you know, then we have to make sure the merch gets set up and blah. It's sort of exciting to see the movie with an audience. And so far, the audiences have absolutely loved hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm. I've never seen anybody walk out except to go to the bathroom. I'm not joking. So, you know, it's a good movie. Just, you know, it's going to take time for the word to get out. It took time for Poultrygeist. You know, Poultrygeist got great the word of beak, but it took a while. Took a while. And it took a while for, look, Toxic Avenger, made 1984. And how many years they finally did finish the sequel? That's a long time, but it takes, you know, mainstream is not exactly visionary, let's put it that way.
Right.
They get it right sometimes, but usually it's the more risky independent movie. Rocky is a perfect example. Rocky was very low budget, but mainstream movie. They let the director have freedom. They went with Stallone, and they agreed to let the production come to Philadelphia without any union crew. And Troma produced all those scenes running up the stairs and We filmed in Philadelphia for about 8 days on Rocky with non-union and
Oh, wow.
under the radar of the thugs. And eventually the truck drivers caught us, Teamsters caught us, and then everybody went back to Los Angeles except for me. But imagine Rocky without that stuff. So here's Rocky made for $1 million, which is basically the same budget as Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD made in 1989. So pretty low budget. The idea was Stallone was unknown, and so was Avildsen, basically. Although I knew they were both brilliant. So there's a lesson there. And we shot those 8 days exactly like a Troma movie, with a, not with, basically, I was able to use my mouth to get free locations, and also if we needed a neighborhood at night to wet the streets so the reflection is nicer, the people in the neighborhood would take their hoses in front of the house and wet down the street, and pizza for all 3 meals, and it was shot like a Troma movie. And there is a BTS that I shot, which is narrated by John G. Avildsen and Uncle Lloydie. And it's on the 20th Century Fox for DVD, 4 Rocky. All the Rockies are in one box, and they feature my behind the scenes with a little script by Avildsen and me.
That's really cool.
The cool part is when Avildsen and I, he had he's dead, but he had a YouTube channel, and I put it on my YouTube channel, on Troma's YouTube channel. We both got takedown letters from Fox. I didn't do anything, but he fought it, and they obviously relented. Wasn't their footage. They didn't pay for it. I don't even know if they ever signed anything, if I ever signed it.
Well, Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us at Infamous Horrors. It's been really fun talking to you. It's an honor having you on here. Been a fan of yours forever, so this is really cool, and thank you so much.
Well, Chad, thank you. This was great questions. I'm happy we finally got to bond a little bit. If you're ever in New York, come and visit the Troma building and see where the magic happens. And I hope the next time I'm in Kentucky with Antonio and Taylor that we all could get a drink together or something.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Fantastic.
There you go.
All right, Chad, I'll let you go. Have a great evening, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Lloyd.